Hi, I'm Ms. Kaveri Madhu Chavan, Assistant Professor in the Department of Anaesthesia and OT Technology, Yenepoya School of Allied Health Sciences. So today I'll be talking on the topic endotracheal tube. So let's begin. Specific learning objectives. At the end of this session, you will be able to enumerate the parts of the endotracheal tube and list its indications for use, differentiate between the various types of the endotracheal tube and explain their uses, explain the technique involved in endotracheal intubation and the potential complications associated with endotracheal intubation. Introduction. Endotracheal tube is an infraglottic airway device placed below the glottis for airway management. It is inserted through the larynx into the trachea to convey gases and vapors to and from the lungs. The endotracheal tube may be cuffed or uncuffed. A cuffed endotracheal tube isolates the trachea from the esophagus and protects the lungs from inhalation of foreign material. So this is a diagram of the endotracheal tube which shows the various parts of an endotracheal tube. First is the proximal end, also known as the machine end. This part of the endotracheal tube is connected to the anesthesia machine through the breathing circuits. Therefore, it is also known as the machine end. Then we have the distal end, also known as the patient end. The distal end is inserted into the airway of the patient and therefore it is known as the patient end. Then we have the bevel. The bevel is the main lumen of the endotracheal tube through which the vapors and the gases are administered to the patient. Then we have the Murphy's eye. So Murphy's eye is an additional hole that is provided in case if the bevel is obstructed with secretions, then the Murphy's eye can be used to ventilate the patient. Then we have a radio-opaque marker. Radio-opaque marker is a lining present throughout the length of the endotracheal tube. The use of a radio-opaque line is to confirm the position of the endotracheal tube using X-rays. Then we have the cuff systems, which consist of the cuff plus an inflation system. The inflation system consists of the inflation tube, the pilot balloon and the inflation valve. So as we know, the cuff is used to protect against aspiration and the cuff is inflated using the inflation system. Cuffed endotracheal tube has an inflatable sleeve near the patient end of the tube. When this cuff is inflated with desired volume of air, it seals the space between the tube and the tracheal wall. It has an inflation tube connecting the pilot balloon to the cuff. The pilot balloon has a one-way inflation valve. Cuff types, depending on the pressure needed to inflate the cuff, it is divided into two: low volume high pressure cuff and high volume low pressure cuff. First is the low volume high pressure cuff. These cuffs require a high pressure to distend and relatively low volume. These cuffs inflate in a circular shape rather than conforming to the shape of the trachea. The advantage of a low volume high pressure cuff is that it provides a better protection against aspiration, and the disadvantage is that it can cause ischemic damage to the tracheal wall mucosa following prolonged use. Second one is the high volume low pressure cuff. A high volume low pressure cuff is made from a thin inelastic material, that is polyvinyl chloride material, and has a large resting volume and diameter. As the cuff has a thin wall, it seals the trachea without stretching the tracheal wall. The advantage of a high volume low pressure cuff is that it causes lesser cuff related complications following prolonged intubation. And the disadvantage is that it may be more difficult to insert as the cuff may obscure the view of the tip and the larynx. So this is the image showing the different types of cuff. The first image, as you can see, the high volume low pressure cuff is in the shape of the trachea, whereas the low volume high pressure cuff is in the circular shape. The second image shows how the cuff looks once it is inserted and inflated in the trachea. Next we'll move on to the indications of using an endotracheal tube or endotracheal intubation. First one is for supporting ventilation in patients with upper airway obstruction, respiratory failure and loss of consciousness. Second, for supporting ventilation during anesthesia. Third, during cardiac arrest, that is after cardiopulmonary resuscitation, once the vitals are restored, we can immediately intubate the patient to assist in their breathing. Next, patients at a risk of pulmonary aspiration and difficult mask ventilation. So these are the indications for using an endotracheal tube. Next, different types of endotracheal tube. So based on the material, we have the red rubber tubes, polyvinyl chloride, that is PVC tubes, and the silicone rubber endotracheal tubes. So what is the difference between a PVC and a red rubber endotracheal tube? A PVC tube is cheap and disposable, whereas a red rubber tube is costlier and reusable, that is, it can be autoclaved up to 6 times. The cuff of a PVC tube is a low pressure high volume cuff, and because of the low pressure, this tube produces less tracheal injury. In the red rubber tubes, the cuff is a high pressure low volume cuff, and because of the high pressure cuff, chances of tracheal injury is more. The PVC tube contains a radio-opaque line, therefore can be visualized in the X-ray, whereas the red rubber tubes are radiolucent. PVC tubes are transparent and therefore secretions and mist can be visualized, whereas the radio-opaque tubes are non-transparent. PVC tube contains an additional hole near the tip called the Murphy's eye, that is, if the main lumen gets blocked, the patient can still be ventilated through the Murphy's eye, whereas the red rubber tube has no Murphy's eye. The PVC tube easily conforms to the anatomy of the airways, whereas the red rubber tubes are slightly more rigid, so does not conform to the anatomy of the airways. The PVC tubes have high incidence of sore throat because of the larger cuff, whereas the red rubber tubes, they have less incidence of sore throat. So this is the image of a PVC and a red rubber tube. Image A is a PVC tube and B is a red rubber tube. The next type of endotracheal tube is the flexometallic tubes, also known as the armored or spiral-ended tube. This tube has a metal nylon spiral reinforcing wire covered internally and externally by rubber or PVC. They are non-kinkable, non-collapsible, and therefore are very useful for head and neck surgeries where acute flexion and extension of the neck is required. Another use of a flexometallic tube is for surgeries on the trachea. A stellate will often be needed for intubation. So as you can see, these tubes are flexible in nature. So insertion of these tubes may be difficult, and therefore a stellate may be used to facilitate the insertion. Next type of endotracheal tubes are the RAE tubes. That is ring Adair Elvin tubes. They are named after their inventors. So there are two types of RAE tubes, the oral and the nasal RAE tubes. These tubes are designed with the intention to facilitate intraoral and some types of facial surgery by moving the part of the endotracheal tube outside the patient away from the surgeon's access. In comparison to the standard endotracheal tubes, they are preform bent, which reduces the risk of kinking and obstruction. The RAE tubes are of two types, the oral and nasal RAE tubes. Oral RAE tubes, also known as the south-facing tubes, that is the tube connector facing towards the patient's feet after placement. Oral RAE tubes are used for upper lip, palate and upper dental surgeries. Nasal RAE tubes are also known as the north-facing tubes, that is the tube connector facing towards the patient's head after placement. These tubes are used for lower lip, tongue and lower dental surgeries. So this is the image of a south-facing, that is the oral RAE tubes, and north-facing, that is the nasal RAE tubes. Next tube is a double lumen tube. A double lumen tube, they are used when one lung ventilation or lung separation is required. They have two lumens, a tracheal lumen and a bronchial lumen. Based on the bronchial lumen, they are named right-sided, means bronchial lumen in the right bronchus, or left-sided, means bronchial lumen in the left bronchus. So this is an image of a double lumen tube. As you can see in the second image, that it has a tracheal lumen and a bronchial lumen. For the tracheal lumen, we have the tracheal cuff, and for the bronchial lumen, there is a bronchial cuff. So the first image shows how the double lumen looks once it is inserted into the airway. The tracheal lumen opens in the trachea of the patient, whereas the bronchial lumen opens in the main stem bronchus. Indications for one lung ventilation or lung separation. The absolute indication is to prevent spillage of contents of one lung like pus or blood to the other lung. Unilateral lavage to prevent spillage of lavage fluid to the healthy lung. Relative indication is any surgery on the lung or thoracic aorta or the esophagus. Then the complications of double lumen tube. The first and the most common complication of double lumen tube is hypoxia. Since the bronchial lumen enters the mainstem bronchus, only one lung is highly ventilated and the other lung behaves like a shunt. So there is a mismatched ventilation of the lungs and that leads to hypoxia. Second is the malposition of the tube, that is bronchial lumen in the wrong bronchus. It is used to be the most common cause of hypoxia. However, the confirmation of the position of the double lumen tube by bronchoscopy has significantly reduced the incidence of malposition. Next complication is trauma to the larynx, bronchial rupture due to overinflation of the cuff in the bronchus. The next type of tube is the microlaryngeal tube. Microlaryngeal tube is designed for microlaryngeal surgery or patients whose airway has been removed to such an extent that normal size endotracheal tubes cannot be inserted. The small tube diameter provides better visibility and access to the surgical field. So this is an image of the microlaryngeal tube which shows that the tube has a smaller diameter compared to a standard endotracheal tube. Deciding the size of the endotracheal tube. For normal healthy males, it should be 8 to 8.5 mm internal diameter can be used, and for normal healthy females 7 to 7.5 mm internal diameter, whereas in children for prematures 2.5 mm ID, 0 to 6 months 3 to 3.5 mm internal diameter, and 6 months to 1 year 3.5 to 4 mm internal diameter. Deciding the length of the tube. In adult males, around 23 cm of the endotracheal tube should be inserted into the airway. For the adult females, around 21 cm should be inserted into the airway. And the tip of the tube should lie around 4 to 5 cm above the carina. Technique of use of the endotracheal tube or the technique of endotracheal intubation. So the first step is patient positioning. That is, the patient should lie in a supine sniffing position. Sniffing position means extension at the atlanto-occipital joint and flexion at the cervical spine. This position is achieved by putting a 6 to 8 cm thick pillow under the occiput. The second step is laryngoscopy. So a laryngoscope blade we have to hold in the non-dominant hand and we have to insert the blade in the right side of the mouth, displacing the tongue to the left in order to visualize the epiglottis. Once the epiglottis is visualized, we have to lift the epiglottis with the tip of with the blade anteriorly to visualize the glottis. Once the glottis is visualized, we have to take an appropriately sized endotracheal tube and pass through the vocal cords into the trachea. The tip of the endotracheal tube should lie around 4 to 5 cm above the carina. Once the tube is inserted, then we have to inflate the cuff. Once the cuff is inflated, we have to confirm the position of the tube using auscultation and capnography. And then we have to secure the tube using adhesive tapes or bandages, and then we have to connect the endotracheal tube to the anesthesia machine. What are the complications of endotracheal intubation? So we have the perioperative complication which includes esophageal intubation, which is most common. If the endotracheal tube is blindly inserted, there is high chances that it will go into the esophagus rather than the trachea. Aspiration, if the cuff is not inflated properly, then there is a risk of aspiration. Bronchial intubation and collapse of the other lung. Tracheal tube obstruction by kinking or secretions. Accidental extubation, trauma to the gum, lips, epiglottis, pharynx, larynx, nasal cavity in case of nasal intubation, reflex disturbances such as laryngospasm, bronchospasm, tachyarrhythmias and hypertension. Post-operative complication includes sore throat, laryngeal edema which usually presents after 1 to 2 hours, infections such as pneumonia or lung abscess, lung atelectasis. Delayed complication usually occurs after prolonged intubation in ICU patients. Therefore, endotracheal tube should not be kept for more than 14 days. So, some of the delayed complications are vocal cord granuloma, laryngotracheal web, tracheal stenosis, tracheal collapse. So, to summarize, endotracheal tube is an infraglottic airway device. It is indicated for airway management in patients with upper airway obstruction, respiratory failure, ventilation during anesthesia, etc. Various types of endotracheal tube includes the PVC, red rubber, flexometallic, RAE, double lumen and microlaryngeal tubes. Some of the most common complications of endotracheal intubation are aspiration, esophageal or bronchial intubation, reflex disturbances like laryngospasm and bronchospasm. These are the references. Thank you.